Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in Black in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents The Root of All Evil. Okay, so as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, click the notification bell and click the word all so that you are notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, Brighton and Patreon at Queen Ahmadiyyah, and also Melanated People at Queen Ahmadiyyah, and Twitter at DGoddess27. Okay. Anatomy of a love triangle. Husband kills his wife for insurance money and his transgender lover. I'm sorry. Why not just get a divorce? Oh, that's right. Because he wanted that money. Some people are so heinous. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Now, February the 23rd of 1991, Arizona businessman Dan Willoughby and his family were on vacation in Las Cochas, Mexico. Dan's wife, Trish, stayed behind to take a nap, according to Snapped on Oxygen, because this was featured on there. Yeah. Okay. Now, while Dan and the kids, they spent the afternoon touring the coastal community. When Dan and his 3 children came back to the vacation home, the kids found their 43-year-old mother with her skull crushed and a butter knife sticking out of one of the fractures. Ghastly, people. Now, she had been beaten and stabbed, and she was gasping for life. Not long after that, she died. First of all, who stabbed somebody with a butter knife? That's just torturous. Now, Dan told Mexican police that over $400 in cash and 2 rings were missing from the scene. The crime scene appeared to be a robbery that went wrong. Now, this murder was the subject of Martinis and Murder on a podcast. So now, the child of Mexican farm laborers, Yesenia Patino, was 6 years old when her family immigrated to the United States in 1962. She hustled men in bars and on the streets and was occasionally supplemented her income. She would occasionally supplement her income by shoplifting. She lived all over, but by the late 1980s, Yesenia moved to Mesa, Arizona, near her family. According to Yesenia, she and a friend were waiting on a bus when she met Dan Willoughby. She says, I started unwrapping the Reese's peanut butter cup and walking the street. All of a sudden, I saw this car driving by, a Jaguar. Driving the Jaguar was Dan, a successful 50-year-old businessman. Dan worked as a sales manager for an international air freight company. Trish Willoughby, Dan's wife, was even more successful than he was. She and her mother ran a lucrative herbal supplement company with over $1 million, or with over $1 million in sales. Now, Dan saw Yesenia drop the candy wrapper on the ground, so he jokingly reprimanded her for littering. Then he offered Yesenia and her friend a ride and drove them to a mall. When he dropped them off, he gave Yesenia his number and offered to buy her a drink sometime. Yet when he met Yesenia for drinks a few days later, they discussed some business. Now, Dan's company had a lot of contracts in Mexico, and he was trying to acquire other business contracts south of the border. So he wanted to learn Spanish. Just a few weeks later, Dan invited Yesenia to meet his family. So she says, Dan takes me to his house and introduces me to his kids as his Spanish teacher, says Yesenia. But she was a lot more than just his teacher. They began seeing each other frequently, and Yesenia even accompanied Dan on a few trips to Mexico. Dan was able to give Yesenia a lifestyle that she had never experienced. Soon, she moved into a nicer apartment right down the road from the Willoughbys, and Dan's wife footed the bill, unbeknownst to her. She said, Dan had me living up within a half a mile from where they lived, where their actual house was. He would take the kids over there in the afternoons to swim in the pool, so the four of them would be out in the pool, and Dan would have his Spanish homework papers, and he would be basically studying Spanish. Now, despite learned Spanish by Dan's quest for Mexican business, that was a little too late. In July of 1990, his job at the air freight company came to an end, but he was still paying Yesenia's bills and traveling with her. Trish began to resent paying for everything, especially his trips off with his side piece. Now, she couldn't even find him on the cell phone. She could never find him anywhere. And she says, I kept telling her, Trish, something's going on. There's something wrong here. Why can't you get in touch with Dan? This is what Farrah Huish, Trish's mother, said. So in the fall of 1990, Trish went looking for her husband. The first place she looked was at his Spanish teacher's apartment. So she says she walks in and goes straight into the bedroom to turn the light switch on and saw Dan putting his shirt on. She didn't see me because I hid. Yesenia said that later in the day, Dan called her and said, Yesenia, my wife is coming to talk to you. If she says something about you and I, just deny it. Just tell her that you're my Spanish teacher. Oh, the lies, honey, the lies. And you know what's even worse? Is when these men are out here lying and cheating, or these women, whichever, is out here lying and cheating, and they absolutely get the other person that they're cheating with to lie for them. The nefariousness of it all. Now, Yesenia said Trish came over, and the next day she approached her saying, my understanding, Yesenia, is that you're going out with my husband. Yesenia denied it and even volunteered to stop tutoring Dan if it was causing problems in his marriage. But Yesenia and Dan continued to see each other. That was all just a lie. Now, in February of 1991, the Willoughbys went on a vacation. They headed to the beachside resort of Los Cochos, Mexico. And on the afternoon of February the 23rd, Dan loaded the kids into the car for a trip to a nearby museum. Trish stayed behind to take a nap. She was still in bed when Dan and the kids piled out of the car after their trip to the museum. Dan told the kids, go on and tell your mom what you saw at the museum. Instead, the kids found their mom in the bed with a pillow over her head covered in blood. Now, he knew his children was going to find this, and that was just so wicked and evil and nefarious of him to even send them in there. Of course, he was likely trying to establish an alibi, and it would make it look better for him if the kids found her body, I guess. So wicked. So the Mexican police took a few Polaroid pictures of the crime scene. They didn't have proper equipment to do forensic evidence and fingerprinting at the time. Items were strewn about the apartment, and it looked like a robbery. But immediately after the murder, detectives back in Arizona began getting some interesting tips. Now, Detective Joseph Ruiz recalled, he says, we received numerous calls from people telling us, I can't believe he finally killed his wife. And I said, who? They said, Dan Willoughby. I can't believe Dan Willoughby finally killed his wife. Several tipsters claimed that Dan, or the Dan they knew, had been cheating on his wife for years, apparently when Dan was still employed. Now, he would often use the office restroom and come out smelling like strong cologne. He would say he was going to digital. He would say that he was going to digital, one of the companies that they did business with. Everyone knew when Dan said he was going to digital, it really meant that he was going to be with a woman for the rest of the afternoon. Now, plenty of callers provided police with the name of Dan's current lady friend. Dan was starting to look kind of guilty. It became known that upon Trisha's death, Dan stood to inherit Trisha's position in her business and gain millions from the death of his wife. A little digging further, the police also revealed that Dan paid the rent for Yesenia's apartment, her monthly dues to a local health club, and he also put money in the joint accounts, a checking account that they both shared. Now, he also went with Yesenia's to get engagement pictures shot. He bought a set of his and her diamond rings, and he and Yesenia were engaged to be married. They had been engaged in the fall of 1990, when both Dan and Yesenia had assured Trish that their relationship was nothing more than a student and a teacher. All the lies and deceit were running rampant, people. So crazy. Now, detectives brought Dan in for questioning, and he at first behaved like a grieving husband at first. But when detectives inquired about the money he stood to inherit due to Trisha's death, his composure completely changed. According to the detectives, when the issue of finances came up, he was notably perspiring. So he started sweating, honey, because he already knew. Dan acknowledged that he would gain several $1 million from Trisha's businesses and assets and life insurance. But he also insisted that he was happily married. He denied that he was having an affair with anyone. Little did he know they already were on to him because they found the records and receipts to where he was paying this woman's bills. Now, police also questioned Yesenia. When they asked for her ID, she gave them her social security card. It said Alfredo Patino. The only piece of information police learned was that she had gotten a gender reassignment operation in the 1980s. At a later date, officers took Yesenia to the police station for questioning. Now, during a search of her purse, police found what they believed to be Trisha's missing rings. In the interrogation room, Yesenia denied being involved in Trish Willoughby's murder, but she did admit to being in Mexico, partying with friends on the weekend of Trisha's death. And she said she bought the ring from a man that she didn't know on the beach on the day of Trisha's murder. Yesenia had a shoplifting warrant for an adjoining jurisdiction, so Mesa police ended up arresting her on that warrant. Now, while incarcerated, the police called Trisha's mother for a positive ID, and also, they called Trisha's mother in for a positive ID on the rings that were found in Yesenia's purse. She confirmed that they, in fact, were her daughter's jewelry. Now, on March the 4th, investigators flew to Mexico to conduct their own investigation of the crime scene, and they discovered fingerprints on a Coke bottle in the kitchen. Now, on March 5th, Yesenia was released from jail without restrictions. And on that same day, the Arizona authorities returned from Mexico and sent the crime scene evidence to the lab. Turns out, those fingerprints were from Yesenia Patino. Now, police had everything they needed to charge Yesenia with Trisha's murder, except Yesenia herself. You see, she had fled. So Trisha's family blanketed the border with posters offering a reward for information leading to Yesenia's capture. They bought advertising space. They put missing posters on the sides of buses, and they kept Yesenia's picture in the news. And a cross-border love triangle with millions at stake was an easy sell for the media. And you know how they love to gossip, honey. Okay? This was clearly a salacious story for them. Now, in December of 1991, the media exposure finally paid off. Crime Stoppers got a phone call from someone who saw Yesenia working in a bar in Mexico. They say, I was working there and had a good time there, but I was afraid, said Yesenia. This is what she says. I was afraid that I would get arrested sooner or later. She was soon arrested in a crowded cantina, in Metzatlan. She says, yes, I'm ready to face the law. Now, in a detailed confession, Yesenia told police that it all started 3 months before Trish was actually killed, when Trish confronted her about that affair. Yesenia she said she gave Dan an ultimatum at that point, either her or Trish. Yesenia claimed Dan had agreed to divorce his wife, but he came up with an alternative plan a few days later. He had no intentions of getting rid of all that money, honey, just losing out on all the wife's inheritance and all that stuff and her share of the business. Oh, he wasn't going to lose out on that. So he'd rather kill than just pack up his bags and leave. So he started telling me on our way to the gym about murdering his wife. I said, no, Dan, we can't do that. Just divorce her. Yesenia eventually agreed to the murder plot. Once he promised to use the crime's payoff to move to Mexico with Yesenia. Now, Dan said, according to Yesenia, Yesenia, I can't do it myself. In order for us to be together forever, you're going to have to help me. This is all crazy. This is where she messed up. First of all, when she gave him the ultimatum and he said he wanted to kill the wife, she should have packed her bags and left. How crazy are these people? I mean, she didn't think at some point that if he killed his wife to be with you, that one day down the line he might kill her to be with somebody else? How can you trust somebody who plots and plans murder and then actually carries it out? So she said he told her that he was going to need her help. Yesenia claimed her job was to sneak into the vacation house and make Trisha's death look like a robbery. She said Dan had murdered Trish earlier by bludgeoning her in her sleep. Ooh, that was wicked. Now she says once he hit her, he left with the kids like to go out for a tour or something. And I go in and see that she's covered up from head to toes. A lot of blood was all around the walls. Yesenia did admit to stabbing Trish in the head, but according to her, it was an act of mercy. Oh, really? She said she could hear Trish moaning, so she tried to finish her off. So she put the butter knife in her temple. Why did you use a butter knife? This is also sick. Yes, Lee Harvey, it absolutely is. Now, the day after Yesenia's confession, Dan was arrested. In April of 1992, Dan Willoughby's murder trial began, and by May, the jury found Dan Willoughby guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to death. Following Dan's trial, Yesenia returned to Mexico and pleaded guilty to murder. She expected to be granted leniency because of her plea, but a Mexican judge sentenced her to the maximum, which was 35 years in prison. Then in 1995, 3 years after the murder case was closed, Yesenia Patino penned a letter to the judge who had sentenced her, or who had sentenced Dan to die. In it, she claimed she had murdered Trish all by herself and that Dan Willoughby had nothing to do with it. Arizona authorities flew to Mexico to interview Yesenia. According to her story, her new story, she had snuck into the house after Dan had left with the kids and then bludgeoned Trish to death. This is what she says. She says, I was upset with that because the ring, it was bought for me. This is what she said in her letter. It was never returned to me. They kept it as a state evidence. They kept it as state evidence. They didn't help me in getting released like they told me that they would. Now, in November of 1999, a judge overturned Dan's conviction, agreeing that his attorney had done a poor job representing him. Dan faced a new jury, and this time, the prosecution didn't seek the death penalty because they said they could no longer rely on Yesenia's testimony. So Dan's new defense team had hopes for an acquittal when his second trial was to begin in 2001. But rather than recant her previous statement and testimony as everyone expected, Yesenia told the same exact story that she told at the first trial. So she's flip-flopping. She says, my sister said to me, please, Yesenia, say the truth. Speak on the truth. Don't make up things. Don't lie. Don't let them, don't let them release Dan. He doesn't deserve to be out, Yesenia. This is what her sister told her. So Trish said again that both she and Willoughby participated in the murder of Trish. A forensic scientist testified that blood spatter at the scene was consistent with Yesenia's original testimony and not the letter. The forensics indicated that Trish's body had endured 2 attacks at 2 separate times. Now, the jury found Daniel guilty again. He received 2 consecutive life sentences, and then Trish's mother wrote Yesenia a letter telling her she forgave her for what she did. She says, because I think she was a victim just like everybody else. She says, it's nice to know that she has nothing against me, said Yesenia. She says that Dan is where he belongs to be and that she feels sorry for what she's going through. And that he's where he needs to be and she feels sorry for what she's going through. This is what the mother said. The mother told her that he's where he needs to be and she feels sorry for Yesenia. I wouldn't feel sorry for you. You just helped kill my child. Please, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. Now, Yesenia Patino is serving her 35-year sentence at the state prison in Hermosillo, Mexico. Dan Willoughby is serving 2 life sentences, and he still to this day maintains his innocence. Trish's brother raised the Willoughby children, who are now adults. That was clearly a shocking and appalling story. And I remember seeing that story on the ID channel, gruesome butter knives, barely work for butter. Shaking my head. Absolutely. Let me tell you all something. Of course he was in on it. Of course it was all plot and planned by both of them. Because here's the thing. If you are going on a vacation with your wife and kids, I'm sorry, why is your Spanish teacher conveniently in Mexico at the same time? Of course they planned to kill the woman, and that's why she came along, so that she could sneak back into the house, make the scene look like it was a robbery, and whatever else that needed to be done. Probably clean up fingerprints and all that stuff too. Susan Butler says, that's where I saw the story on the ID channel. Absolutely. Okay, Queen Candy J says, good. It should have been capital murder. Yes, because it was absolutely premeditated. So, also crazy. Welcome says, a butter knife, just terrible. Yes. And then Lee Hart says, oh, my painful in the temple. Yes, can you imagine? And she said she did to do her a favor. Okay, that make sense. So anyway, that is it, people. I want to thank you for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents The Root of All Evil. Now you see just how far some people are willing to go, all for the love of cash, the skrilla, the racks, the bands, nefariousness, no less. So stay tuned, people, because later today I'm going to be doing multiple lives on the True Crime channel. So you don't want to miss those. So make sure you tune in to the True Crime channel. Okay, so thanks. And I'm probably going to go live on that channel at around 4 o'clock. That's like 2 hours from now. Okay. So with that all being said, you know what? Make it 3:30. But with that all being said, enjoy the rest of this lovely day. And I hope to see you all in the next chat at 3:30 on Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents True Crimes. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAhmadiyyah also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, right in Patreon, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and Melanated People, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, Twitter, TheGoddess27.